Hey fam, welcome to Big Brother and the Hodling Company, which is a podcast about music and Web3, trying to fend off Big Brother. I'm McKeegan Voice. Today I spoke with two of the co-founders of STEMS Labs. I spoke with CEO and Senior Designer Christian Vivadelli, Chief Product Officer and A&R whiz Nikita Bondarenko. So STEMS Labs is a community and platform that allows artists to drop audio tracks, or STEMs, as non-fungible tokens, or NFTs. The organization recently raised $4 million to build toward a permissionless infrastructure where artists and fans can connect through music's building blocks, creating new and enduring opportunities for remixes and monetization. We chatted about all of this and more. I hope you enjoyed the conversation. Here we go. Hey, great to have you guys here. Thanks for being here. And I always like to start at the beginning and learn a bit more about your backgrounds and where you're from and when your relationship with music started. One of you wants to go first.
I'm Nikita, one of the STEM's co-founders, and yeah, I've always loved music. It was a big kind of part of my family. Like we always listened to music together, and I was a competitive swimmer for many years, and I used music as a way to get pumped up or like help with my training, help get into a flow. Was never classically trained or anything like that, even though I wanted to be. And then as I went to college, I met Christian. Christian actually took me to my first like show in New York City, which was Avicii, rest in peace, and really exposed me to the dance music scene in New York, which is very rich. And from then on, I got interested in DJing, producing, and then I moved to LA a couple of years ago, and it really took off there.
Cool. How about you, Christian? At least to the part prior to Avicii.
Yeah, let's see, music-wise, was I never was, like, very deep into making music myself. I did play the drum sets and the saxophone growing up, and I was, like, on the drum line in elementary and middle school, so
Mm.
I got the snare drum down. But outside of that, similar to Nikita, I swam growing up, and I met Nikita in college, and I was very into going to concerts even in high school. I was like very obsessed. I'd read all the music blogs. I knew the deepest depths of like IDM music, Aphex Twin from the very beginning and all that stuff. And then from there in college, I was still very. I spent my free time would be like on SoundCloud or Spotify, looking at related artists and finding new music, and I always enjoyed doing that and making playlists. And then I was actually in the Navy for 5 years. I was a nuclear
Mm.
engineer officer on submarines, so I did two deployments on submarines, and there's no internet, there's no texting or
Mm.
anything underwater. So all I had for entertainment were like books and listening to music that I downloaded. So I spent a lot of time like laying in my little rack listening to music, and it's always been, even before an escape, but especially in those times, it was definitely a very important piece of my life. And yeah, and so from there, I was super excited to work together with Nikita and make it even more a part of my life.
Oh, that's fascinating. I've always been curious what it would feel like to be in a submarine. So yeah, okay, so you've met in college. You, at least part of your relationship was connecting through music. At what point did you, I guess, A, first interact with Web3, and then B, at what point did you conceive the idea of STEMs and start working toward manifesting it?
Yeah, I can chime in here. Basically, yeah, as Christian mentioned, all our friends are like super into music, but we're not necessarily from like we weren't doing it full time, and we spent time going to a lot of shows, experimenting with DJing, making music, freestyle rapping. So yeah, in 2021, I made a song. I collabed on a song with another one of our co-founders, Andros, who goes by Ander, and we made a song together, and it did pretty well. Like within our friend group, it was showing up on people's like Spotify blends.
Mm.
So we just yeah, and during this time, Web3 was emerging. It was like a little more straightforward for the JPEGs and NFTs, but a little like less straightforward for music. So we were just looking for a way to do something unique, which yeah, and we landed on the idea of fractionalizing the song Dear into stems, and we wanted to airdrop each stem, which represents having a unique piece of the song to people that liked the song. And yeah, we started working on this together. And eventually we got a lot of feedback that there might be a lot more here. We had Benny Jang, he mentored us from Dapper Labs, one of the founding members of Dapper Labs, and he was really pushing us to make this into a platform essentially and help other artists use their stems as a vehicle to connect with their fans and to unlock like new music or even other art to be made from these stems with Web3 incentives attached to that.
It was definitely like me joining Nikita because he and Andros had the initial song, which was the genesis of this entire initiative. My experience with Web3 in college, I was even like I graduated high school in 2012, and I think I'd gotten my first Bitcoin sometime around then,
Wow.
but was pretty familiar with Bitcoin in college. Fortunately, did not hoe that one, so things maybe have been different now if I had, but anyways, yeah. So then I lost track of the crypto scene, I think, after I graduated college and was in the Navy, but I had heard about all the excitement in like the 2017 or 2018, like whatever time around the ICO era, whenever there was that explosion. Like obviously I was aware that was happening, so busy with my current job that I didn't really get too involved. But yeah, and then as I was getting in 2021, I was I was already knew I was getting out of the Navy, so I was looking for ways to figure out what I was going to do next. And this was right when DeFi, after DeFi summer had just happened. And so again, there was a lot of talk about crypto, and the Web3 term was really starting to pick up around then, but still wasn't even as big as it got until later in 2022. But yeah, so like I was just like in every single Discord trying to figure out where I was going to work. Like, what skills how can I bring nuclear engineering to the crypto space? Turns out it's not quite there yet, but I was fortunate enough to have Nikita as a friend who had been crypto adjacent for a while, and we took this idea and ran with it. And I live in New York City, so NFT NYC was just like a natural fit for me to just go to a conference, and it just exploded from there. Yeah.
Cool. So you had this idea of splitting a song into the into its stems and using that as a mechanic for community building, remixes, things like that. And you said, Nikita, that was even early on when you started talking about that kernel of an idea, you were getting good reception and people were pushing you to expand that and make it much bigger. I'm curious some of that feedback what some of that feedback looked like and how it expanded your own conception of the project and the vision that you have for it.
Yeah, as we were building this, there were platforms popping up doing music NFTs, but they were mostly focused on the collectible aspect. And I think the feedback we were getting, which is cool, but it's not very clear what is the long-term benefit of collectibles. Like you see projects like NBA Top Shot that explode initially and then taper off as newer and shinier things pop up. And we were just thinking that a lot of the music ideas were missing the composable aspect that DeFi has or other crypto things have, which is really the beauty of things like Web3 is the composable aspect. And we realized these stems are essentially Lego blocks of music. You can break down songs into pieces and recreate them, use them to create new things. So once we had that moment that stems are composable, everything really clicked. And that's when I think we dived in with all out effort.
Cool, cool. And yeah, I'm curious in terms of taking these stems, like when you're talking to artists, how are you communicating this with them? How are you talking about the journey of the artist and the incentives for turning a song into its stems? How are you communicating this project to artists to say you should be here doing this?
Yeah, each artist is unique and has their own kind of unique goals, is what we've learned. A big part of this is these stems unlock a ton of remixes to be made, and artists actually struggle to find good remixes being made. So that's one component. The other component is the general promise of Web3 music, which is the kind of improving the artist fan connection. And arguably the biggest component is the financial incentives, being able to pay artists more through these NFT sales. And each artist is different, but those are, I would say, the three things. I'm not sure if I might have missed something.
The last aspect, which I think is interesting, can be unlocked by the Web3 ecosystem and like the architecture of NFTs, which I would say most artists probably don't fully understand. Some that are like pretty deep in the space, like it's clicked and they get it. But once, if the future occurs where a lot of music is all on the blockchain, then there's like this interoperability aspect, which is pretty powerful, and you'll definitely have an advantage, especially as a first mover if you're in the space where, you know, this like royalty distribution, which has been clunky and not coherent in the world because everything is so gated. But if someone makes a song and they upload it, and then the stems are used to make a remix, and that remix is streamed on Audius, or it's listened to on some other Web3 platform. It's all connected on the blockchain. We know where things are being used, and there is the potential for very robust metadata that's transferable across all of these things, which a lot of people are working on. And then you can have like automatic, instantaneous, permissionless, and trackable royalty streams when
Mm,
music is created and consumed in a variety of different apps all over the ecosystem, and it all
mm,
comes filtering back to the artist. And the potential, the way that we're doing it is that if you're owner of one of the stems that's using a remix, and you get a slice of that, you get a cut.
mm,
So there is that whole side of things, which is a pretty difficult concept to explain to someone who has no idea what's going on in Web3, but like they've heard about NFTs and they've heard that a lot of people are making a lot of money on it and they want in on it. But there are definitely artists in the space that are like very keyed in and understand this potential. And so it's not a very difficult sell for those types of artists.
For the sake of people listening, tell me how it works. Okay, I'm an artist. I come into the platform. I put my stems onto the platform. What happens next?
Yeah. So right now we're still building the platform, and we've been running these remix games as a funnel to build the community and to bring in artists via Discord, and having this community first approach, which is letting us learn what artists and members of the Web3 space like what works, and we're building the platform to match. But essentially, yeah, an artist, they pick a song. It could be an existing song, it could be a new song, and they drop the stems of that song as NFTs on the platform. And there's two components. There's the collectors can collect the NFTs, and music makers can use the stems to make remixes. And you don't have to collect an NFT, a stem NFT, in order to make remixes. We don't want to
Mm,
charge someone 300 or something dollars to buy a snare drum to make music. As the remixes are coming in, as the music is being sampled, the community votes on their favorite remixes. And essentially, if you have a stem, if you have a stem NFT, if you collected one, you have access to royalties from this new music that has been created. So essentially, that's like the value add of owning a STEM NFT. You have access to royalties from the new music made.
totally.
And for the artists, the remixers, they get the chance to, we call it, make music with their favorite artist. I make music, and myself, and just having the chance to see like an artist that I look up to stems and being able to play with them in my DAW, and is already super cool. But
Mm.
here I get to create this remix using the stems, share it with this artist that I look up to, and even get feedback. And if they like it a lot, it can be released on our platform, more traditional Web2 DSPs, and create this collaboration. So essentially, it's a platform and we're trying to build a platform that enables collaboration using these stems.
Yeah, and just to add there, I think something that people who don't make music may not like fully grasp is, especially it's sometimes hard to actually get access. A lot of stems of songs are gated by for a variety of reasons, but you don't have access to them. So what we're trying to do is like creative culture of open creation and collaboration where the artists that you like, you have access to their stems and you can remix them and you can connect with that artist. An example that we had is we had a remix competition with this artist called Poolside. He's a pretty popular artist. And then in the remix competition, the winner, White, he basically was like, I've always listened to Poolside. I loved him. And I was so excited to do this remix competition. I have access to his stems. And then Poolside came to one of our events in New York City, and White Cliffs came too. They DJ'd together, and then White Cliffs like the next day they made a song together. And so this just would have never happened before, and it
Mhm.
really has compressed the duality of the artist and the fan, and it's now this much more like murky continuous spectrum of artist, fan, enjoyer, and it's pretty fun to watch things like that happen.
Absolutely. That type of collaboration is really cool. And that's my favorite thing about Web3 in general is just these innovative new mechanisms that are just creating these collaborative opportunities that wouldn't exist otherwise. Exactly like you said. Yeah, so how many artists have you worked with so far, and how have you curated these initial artists that you've worked with?
We are currently on our ninth remix game, I believe. So about 8 curated artists with over 100 remixers. The first artist we just experimented with our song that Andros and I made. We did some drops with existing Web3 artists, and then we've expanded to artists like Poolside, as Christian mentioned, and Elohim is another big one who have like millions of monthly listeners. But eventually, right now we're doing curated collections, but eventually we want to open up the platform to anyone to drop their. But the kind of remix game is like it's something that we want people to like be proud of. Oh, it's cool that I won the stems DAO game.
Mm.
Down the line, we want anyone to be able to drop their stems and give like fans an opportunity to interact with their artist stems, and also give like up and coming artists the chance to break. Because yeah, and we kind of want to. We've experimented with gamification a lot. Like we want to have leaderboards, or we're thinking about it like so you can see this is like the most. This is like the most sampled stem, and extend the life of these pieces of art in this way.
Yeah, and I think the last part of that is right now we're doing artists one by one, these games to perfect the process and refine what our product is, and that those terms like product market fit and things like that. But just get our name out there, and this has been a great way to do it. We do envision a future where this kind of process becomes more automatic and permissionless, and basically anybody at any time can upload some musical media content, and then people can feel free to remix it. Maybe we'll have some sort of like incentive mechanism to create that, encourage that dynamic, where like that's one of the power of token economies in Web3 is maybe we could do incentive things where if you make a remix, and the number of votes you get tokens, and then things like that. So we haven't like fully fleshed that out yet, but the idea is to create this permissionless like social application that is centered around music and collaboration.
Cool. Do you have a timeline or a sense of like when you might open it up a bit more beyond the kind of one by one artist onboarding?
So we're the platform, we actually hired some more engineers recently, and things are picking up a lot faster. I think the open nature probably will come around the same time as whenever we get a mobile app out there, because that'll allow us to as that and have like exponential growth there. I don't know if Nikita has any additional thoughts about that.
Yeah, we're experimenting with different approaches. It's hard for artists to people who use these remixes or use these stems to have a frictionless way to upload their remixes with correct attribution and have a good UI. So we're experimenting with all those. And for a lot of these cases, having a mobile app, as Christian mentioned, is more fitted to user behavior. Right now, everyone uses Instagram Reels or TikTok to easily upload videos, and we're learning from all these existing apps what the best way to do this is for our community. But yeah, right now we got out an initial beta where we like tested out a mint. So we minted stems. The next thing on the timeline is kind of releasing this remixing functionality to our community, and then after that, hopefully a mobile app, and then we can get closer to the permissionless vision where anyone can upload their stem.
Cool. It seems like a logical roadmap. Yeah, and you guys are just coming off a successful fundraise. You just raised like $4 million. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Good timing on that.
Yeah, we're pretty excited about it, and it gives us the runway to build out the things that we have in mind. And we definitely, our timing could not have been better. We closed in around the February timeframe, and
Nice.
very quickly after the world started crumbling a little bit.
Yeah, no, that is good timing. And I saw that a couple of the investors were like RAC and Boys Noise, like a couple of the more prominent names in the Web3 music space. When you were raising money and you were communicating the different benefits of the platform, were you targeting artists? Were you thinking about going after the people with whom your mission would most resonate?
We've explored the idea with a lot of people, both artists and people in the tech world, people outside of the tech world, people in Web3. Yeah, but we definitely have an A&R funnel. And I think artists who are naturally into this kind of are drawn to this and we're drawn to them. We definitely try to find people that are interested in this, but they also find us.
And also, RAC he's probably one of the most in the weeds of crypto of any
Mhm.
artist. There's a couple that are pretty similar, but like RAC has a social token, RAC, which is
Mhm.
like you're if you buy that, you're betting on his like future growth potential. And there's some
Mhm.
pretty novel concepts that I don't think most people are aware of even exist really.
Mhm.
So someone like RAC, it's not very difficult to explain things to. Boys Noise is yeah, he's also just pretty keyed in, but also is looking for ways to grow and learn more. So that was also not very difficult. But yeah, in general, there's been an interesting kind of conversation as well, though. Is who is this really for? Is this for smaller people who, for smaller artists who are just trying to like dabble and maybe you're not full-time artists, or is it like the smaller artist that's it's trying to does it as a full-time career but they're not very big, or is it for do we want big time artists and like what kind of people will that bring in? So those are conversations we had, and there's no set answer, and we're constantly kind of shifting, and the general idea is a good mix of everybody, and we definitely don't want to forget about the little guys. And just if we just have a dog or somebody, and then it would almost bring in the wrong type of attention when we're trying to
Mhm.
build something where it's much more grassroots and like honest and like about making meaningful connections and also
Right.
meaningful revenue for artists who are trying to do this like for real, full time kind of thing.
Yeah, and one thing we've learned as we've done these remix games is almost like 40% of artists that come in to remix a curated artist have never, like, they don't even have a crypto wallet. So we're onboarding them. Like, part of our job is to help onboard them into the space, tell them about MetaMask, create documentation for these artists, because it's really tough being a independent artist in 2022. Even just if you stay in the Web2 world, like most artists,
Mhm.
they, on top of making the music, which is the hardest part, they have to do their own marketing and figure out who's doing their album cover, artwork, social
Mhm.
media, how do they get gigs, how do they use existing platforms to build up their careers, how do they get on the right playlists. So all of this
Mhm.
stuff is already very tough. And then Web3 music is, it's cool, it's very cool, and it helps artists make money or create connections with their fans. But the learning curve is very steep, and it's already very, figuring out the other stuff is already very hard. Our job is to make these tools make artists' lives easier instead of add more tools to the stack.
Absolutely. Yeah, and a huge piece of that work and the transition is the onboarding of people and trying to reduce the friction as much as you can while showcasing all the benefits that Web3 is introducing to artists that aren't really possible within Web 2. That's great to hear that there are curious artists who are coming in that are entering the community and willing to explore this new. If either of you, it's a question for both of you, but if you could work with any one artist at this point, who would it be and which track would you take the stems for?
The Spotify Wrapped just came out today.
Mm-hmm.
Most listened to artist this year is Flume. So yeah, he's definitely probably my most listened to favorite artist right now. So what probably one of his tracks, one of the more aggressive psychedelic ones, I would say.
Yeah, it'd be pretty daunting to try and remix and make a better song with Flume, though. I'm trying to think of somebody else besides Flume because I probably would have said Flume too. So, like, I listen to a lot of lo-fi kind of stuff. So, like, really, we went to Berlin this past summer, and I was into techno, but after being there and like listening to techno, I like got a lot more into techno. I've been listening to a lot of techno ever since. And techno overall is a pretty like rigid community, and sometimes the core community doesn't like want a lot of experimentation or something. But I remember this like one artist that I saw there, he was from Detroit, and you could definitely feel this like kind of hip hop influence in the techno. And so I would love to see some sort, this isn't a specific artist, it's more of a genre, or I'd love to see like a straight techno artist and then have a remix competition where we like encourage a lot of like diverse genre interpretations of that and see where that takes us.
Cool. Have you two participated in any of the remix games at all?
I participated. I was the host who provided the stems in the first one, and I think I participated in 3 remix games. So I did one for Sound of Fractures, who's a London-based artist taking the Web3 music landscape by storm, I'd say. I did a remix for Great Dane, who's like a trappy bassy hip hop beat maker. And I did one for Elohim, which was a couple of months ago. And yeah, it's been super cool to see artists of like different genres and get the chance to reinvent their music within new genres. So one of the songs I made was a hip hop song. One of them was a techno song.
Cool. Yeah, no, I think the sheer amount of experimentation that can happen with something like a remix game is pretty valuable. And I imagine really interesting for the artist too, who's coming in and seeing their songs creatively remixed and reinterpreted in so many different ways. I'm curious, are there any other projects or are there any other communities that have been particularly inspiring as you've worked toward building stems and building up the community, cultivating it through these games, through this cadence with bringing artists into the platform? Is there anyone you're looking at who has or continues to be inspirational for what you're building?
I would say we partnered with Lens Protocol. For whoever's not familiar, they're basically like a Web3 Facebook. So it's a decentralized social graph where the users own their social graph, and they've definitely really inspired us to the point where we have fully partnered with them and integrated with them, and we view it as like a synergistic relationship. Music and is created on our platform, and then we use their protocol for the social side of things. And yeah, besides that, we've talked with a lot of the projects and collabs, either behind the scenes or in public. Yeah, we love all the projects, like the music NFT projects. We're working on a metadata standard with some of them, and yeah, doing remix games. Like we did a remix games with NBot Collective. The Bot Collective have some more things planned in the pipeline as well.
Yeah, I would have said ones as well. They've been one, just an incredibly supportive team, and two, they are, you can see them starting to take off in terms of usage, and like a lot of the big names in just the crypto Web3 space have Lens handles and tweet stuff on Lenster. And so seeing that grow, so we're excited to be kind of tangential to that and building on top of it, which also enables that conversation I had about the permissionless and the
Mhm.
interoperability. Because once we're built on Lens, you can tweet your song on Linster and then also bring it over to stems, because on in this protocol you truly own your content and you can take it wherever you go, which is in normal world you can't like tweet a song on Twitter and then it is like automatically also on YouTube and Facebook.
Mm.
So that doesn't exist in the normal world, in the Web2 world, but it will here. So yeah.
Totally. No, I think that's one of the coolest value propositions of the blockchain is something like an on-chain social graph. What Lens is building, and especially within the context of what's happening with Twitter right now, people have to confront the reality in which do you leave Twitter, do you not? People have maybe spent years and hundreds of hours on a platform building value that is stored in a centralized server and isn't necessarily going to travel with them anywhere else. But yeah, that's about all I have at this point, guys. That was my last question. I'll leave you with one more that I like to ask everybody, just akin to the one I asked about the one artist that you'd bring into stems. But I'm curious, you're both going to desert islands. You get to bring 3 albums with you. What are they?
I listen to, like, whenever I work out, which I guess I'm gonna want to work out on the island, but just Stein's album Aleph, which is like industrial kind of music, but it's also, I'll listen to a lot of scenarios. I love that harsh industrial music. So just Stein would be one. Com Trues, I'm
Mm.
blanking on the album name, but I listen to that almost all the time when I'm like, I'll do like Com Trues radio. But so I honestly can't really remember the album name, but if I just can bring Com Trues album radio with me. And then the third one, Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon. Big fan of Pink Floyd, and just I probably listen to the most like acoustic music, I think, of our cohort. I
Mm.
listen to a lot of like rock and light rock and stuff like that, and psychedelic rock. So I think my final third one is Pink Floyd.
Cool. I love it. It's one of the best albums of all time.
Yeah, for myself, I would Yeah, I would go with the Flume project to start, because I already mentioned, yeah, I played his debut project. And then I love hip hop. I played Good Kid, Mad City by Kendrick Lamar for
Nice, good
that.
choice.
And then my family, they always listen to Rammstein, which is
Wow,
like a
nice.
German metal rock techno band from Berlin. It's like my dad's favorite band, and I've always listened to it like growing up, and definitely influenced a lot of my own music taste and my own production style. But I don't even know how to say the album name. It's like German, but shoot, or
Yeah,
it's
I
from
don't know how to say it.
1997. Yeah, but
It's like the one that has Du hast on it.
yeah, yeah, that's a
Yeah,
banger.
yeah, it is. Cool, good choices. I love them. Cool, guys. And last but not least, if you could tell people out there if they want to get involved with stems, what is the best way to do that?
Yeah, our website is stems.art, and that will have all the links to what we're building. Come check out our Discord, come check out the beta of the platform and all our different social profiles. But yeah, I would say the Discord and the platform are the things to check out.
Yeah, and then we constantly have remix games, and it's not like even if you're not a full-time artist, you can just jump on in there and chat with people, and then maybe find someone to make a song with, or you could just be the vocals. If you've been ever interested in like dabbling your toes in music making, this is the opportunity, because there's a lot of people that are just like you who are curious about it or interested in dipping their toes in there, and that's the community that we want to cater to and help them grow. And yeah.
Cool. I like that. So yeah, lots of different entry points, whether you're just curious or want to start making music with other people, or are full-blown artists who want to release stems, lots of different ways to get involved.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you both for your time. Wish you only the best as you continue to build, and looking forward to what comes next.
Yeah, thanks so much for the time and letting us talk about stems, and appreciate it.
Absolutely. Take care, guys. All right, that's it for this episode of Big Brother and the Hodling Company. I'm your host, Nikita Voice, and you can keep up with me and all the latest Web3 music trends on Twitter at Makeegan. That's Maceagon. This show is a production of Decentral Media, and you can visit us at decentral.io. And remember, only you can prevent and fend off Big Brother.